All right, cheers and salutations. Welcome everybody to Americans Learn. Now, I know I made a promise that we will check out the Aurelian campaign, but before we do, folks, this is a test of Imperial Roman loyalty. That's right, we here at Americans Learn, we need to see more people saying we want Aurelian campaign. We need to see it. So before we get started with that glorious campaign, we need to remember what it's like to be on the fight for freedom against tyranny. And now, folks, we're about to see the biggest losers of losers who claims he is one, who would dare invade the holy soil of Italia. That's right, we're talking about Pyrrhus. You know, before Rome. Yes, that jag-off guy who claimed to have glorious victories, even though it cost the lives of his men. We here at Americans Learn are going to start off with this campaign. Now, we remember our lessons from unbiased history. So let's go ahead and check out this documentary by Kings and Generals. Be sure to support the original content creators. It's the right thing to do. It's the one thing to do. But let us boot up and suit up and fight Pyrrhus, this time now more than ever. For he is a threat. Now, our Roman friend isn't here right now. He will join us soon when he lands on Italy. So before we get started with that, let's get ready to play up this video. So true Romans, grab some true Roman wine, eat some true Roman bread, make true love to your true Roman wives, and let us get ready to play this video in a 3, a 2, and an uno. Oh, did you think it was over, that we're not going to talk about Rome? Well, you have been gravely mistaken.
The heroes and legends of the Iliad and the Odyssey inspired many great individuals throughout the ancient world, and these people played a great role in influencing history. Pyrrhus of Epirus was no exception. His adventures and conquests around Greece, Italy and Sicily during the early Hellenistic age gained him a reputation for martial prowess which was unmatched in history, and his benevolence to his people and soldiers ensured that he would be remembered fondly by his adversaries and friends alike, while his rashness would make him a lesson for others. Welcome to our 4-part series on Pyrrhus, King of the Epirites. This video is sponsored by Imperator Rome, the newest historical grand strategy game from Paradox Interactive. Build a glorious empire out of blood and marble. Take the reins of power over any of hundreds of ancient nations, including Rome and Carthage, as you slowly expand to dominate the classical Mediterranean, Europe and India. Expand trade, build roads and command armies on the most detailed map ever made for a Paradox game. But keep an eye on your generals and governors. Some of them will increase their own power and plunge your land into civil war. Enjoy the panoply and majesty of the world of Caesar and Hannibal in Imperator Rome, coming April 25th. You can support our channel by buying the game via the link in the description.
Sounds fun.
In the aftermath of Alexander the Great's death in 323 BC...
Look at the map. I mean, my goodness, it is not even the glorious Roman red. It is this is not a very pretty map to look at.
His empire fragmented and was fought over by his generals. His mother, Olympias, whose grandson now sat on the throne of Macedon, was threatened by the son of Antipater, Cassander. Olympias, being a Molossian herself, allied herself with King Aeacides of Epirus and marched with him to reconquer Macedon. However, by 317 BC, she had lost popular support due to her ruthlessness, and Cassander now decided to take advantage. He pushed north and invaded Macedon, gaining victory and having Olympias killed. In this
I'm assuming that is Angelina Jolie's character from the movie, the hit film, Alexander, starring Colin Farrell.
Triumph, a part of the Epirate army had rebelled against Aeacides and ousted him, declaring Neoptolemus II as king instead. Many of the deposed king's allies and family were killed, but his son, the 3-year-old Prince Pyrrhus, was spirited away towards Megara on the eastern border of Epirus. His family had sympathizers in the town, but he was not safe from Cassander. Because of this, the prince's guardians fled north into Illyria, where they took refuge in the court of Glaucius, king of the Illyrians, who pitied the young prince and took him in. He also possibly did this for several practical reasons, either because he decided a claimant to the Epirate throne was more valuable to him than Cassander's possibly empty promises, or because his wife was also a Molossian and convinced him to spare her kin. Not long after, Cassander invaded Illyria and defeated Pyrrhus's guardian in battle.
Well, sucks to be Pyrrhus right now, but you know it is fascinating to see this detailed story about the quote unquote Pyrrhus who would one day claim to take on Rome itself.
He pledged to do no harm to the allies of Cassander in the region, but retained Pyrrhus at his court. In southern Greece, the forces of Antigonus I and Cassander were battling, which weakened the Macedonian king's control. The deposed Aeacides decided to take advantage of this weakness and marched back into Epirus, where he quickly gathered a large army. Cassander sent his brother Philip to deal with him, who quickly won 2 battles against and killed the Epirate king. Pyrrhus's father was dead, and the usurper Neoptolemus was back on the throne. After another round of fighting in Epirus and a peace between the Diadochi, Glaucius invaded Epirus in 307 BC, drove out Neoptolemus, and installed the 11-year-old Pyrrhus as king, whose kingdom was now essentially a client of the Illyrians.
Hey, I'm noticing that city Byzantium. You know, I mean, first of all, it looks like it's in a great strategic spot. I'm just not too much of a big fan of the name. Maybe we should choose another name. For some reason, it is escaping me now.
6 years later, Pyrrhus travelled north to attend the wedding of Glaucius's son, but the Molossians once again revolted and overthrew Pyrrhus. Disgusted at his dependence on the Illyrians, they once again summoned Neoptolemus and placed him on the throne. This time Glaucius could not help Pyrrhus, and he instead withdrew to southern Greece and the court of Demetrius Poliorcetes, son of Antigonus I, who had married Pyrrhus's sister Diademea. He then travelled with his new companion to Asia, where they rendezvoused with Antigonus. Under these 2 kings, Pyrrhus learned much in terms of generalship and siege warfare. Antigonus supposedly acknowledged his talents, stating that Pyrrhus would be the greatest general of his time if he lived long enough.
I'm willing to bet Antigonus was like, oh, geez, this kid won't shut up. You know what? Just to shut him up. Hey, man, you're going to be one hell of a general if you live long enough. Yeah, there you go. Antigonus, I'm so sorry you had to deal with Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus was a punk.
This assertion would soon be tested for the first time. In 301 BC, the 80,000-strong forces of Lysimachus and Seleucus faced off against the 80,000-strong army of Antigonus and Demetrius at the Battle of Ipsus. At the age of 18, this was Pyrrhus's first experience of a major battle, and he would...
And you know what? 18, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, but seriously, at age 18, going into frontline battle in your command of your cavalry, like, I can't think of a lot of 18-year-olds that could do that now in this day and age, okay?
Proved to be a competent fighter. As a young aristocrat, he likely fought in the cavalry alongside his brother-in-law Demetrius on the right flank. Sources do not give many details, but they say that though he was still a youth, he routed the enemy in front of him and was courageous in the melee. Nevertheless, the Antigonids lost the battle, and Pyrrhus managed to escape with Demetrius to Greece.
Lucky.
Pyrrhus was then tasked with commanding the remaining Antigonid allies in Greece, while his superior travelled to Thrace in order to make war with Lysimachus. In 298, Demetrius made peace with Ptolemy I, who had solidified his position as the ruler of Egypt. As a part of the peace terms, Pyrrhus was sent to Egypt as a hostage, which was more of a position as an honoured guest than a prisoner in the ancient world. The new arrival impressed the court in Alexandria with his strength and prowess, both in hunting and during military exercises. His years in exile, both with the Illyrians and Demetrius, seem to have made him skillful at ingratiating himself with those he resided with. After a few months, Pyrrhus was permitted to marry Ptolemy's stepdaughter Antigone, tying him closer with the court in Egypt. In 297, Cassander died, and the Egyptian ruler provided Pyrrhus with soldiers and money so that he might reclaim his kingdom. He came to terms with Neoptolemus, and both decided to share royal power. Predictably, both kings immediately began plotting. After a conspiracy by Neoptolemus was uncovered, Pyrrhus invited him to dinner and assassinated his co-ruler,
Damn, Pyrrhus. Killed your co-ruler? What the hell?
becoming the undisputed king of Epirus for decades to come. Like the other Hellenistic rulers, Pyrrhus would soon attempt to expand his kingdom at the expense of his neighbours, and he would use the Epirot army to do this. Thucydides describes the typical 5th century army of Epirus as a tribal levy, disorganised, brave when things were going their way, but quick to dishearten and flee at any setback. However, it is clear that Epirus was influenced by the reforms in the Macedonian army to its east. Their infantry fought in the close order Sarissa phalanx, and the cavalry fought with lances, similar to Alexander's companions. At the start of his reign, it is probable that this new modern army of Pyrrhus had a total of 20 to 25,000 troops, and was a match for almost any of his contemporaries. In the tumultuous struggle for the throne after the death of the former king, Pyrrhus was drawn into a civil war between Cassander's sons, the eldest Antipater and the youngest Alexander. Their mother, Thessalonike, favoured Alexander and split the kingdom between them. However, Antipater was not satisfied with this and killed their mother.
Oh, what? By the way, that's a horrible scream.
However, Antipater was not satisfied with this and killed their mother, seizing the whole of the country in 294 BC. In return for Stymphaea and Parauia in Macedon, and Ambracia, Acarnania and Amphilochia in Greece, Pyrrhus agreed to help Alexander. After securing these new territories with garrisons, he conquered the rest of Macedonia and handed it over to Alexander. Lysimachus, who had been petitioned by Antipater to help, advised the two kings to come to terms, and so they did, while Pyrrhus withdrew back to Epirus. This was not the end of it. Demetrius, who had been campaigning against the Spartans, now marched north and eventually murdered Alexander after a feast. Then he assembled the Macedonian army and proclaimed that he was the rightful claimant to the throne, and that Cassander and his sons were the murderers of Alexander the Great's family, whereas his own house had followed Alexander's legacy and attempted to keep it alive. This won the Macedonians over, and they acclaimed him the new king. By the
That's not cash money.
end of 294 BC, Demetrius controlled a powerful empire, consisting of the entirety of Greece, with the exceptions of Sparta, Messenia, and Pyrrhus's kingdom, with which he now shared a border. The former master and apprentice would be rivals for years to come. Meanwhile, Pyrrhus's wife Antigone died in childbirth, and he embarked on a series of political marriages which gained him the island of Corcyra. The Greek cities revolted against the Macedonian king twice in 293 BC. Encouraged by this, Pyrrhus invaded the western part of his neighbour's kingdom with around 30,000 troops and exacted tribute from a few cities. Responding almost immediately, Demetrius marched against Pyrrhus with a vastly superior army, and so he retreated into Epirus before the Macedonians could bring them to battle. Before leaving to besiege Thebes, Demetrius left an 11,000-strong garrison under his best general, Pentalchus. While he was back in Epirus, Pyrrhus' wife Lanassa, the daughter of Agathocles of Syracuse, deserted him and offered herself and Corcyra to Demetrius, stating that she could no longer bear sharing her home with Pyrrhus' other barbarian wives.
Don't you understand? Okay, first of all, damn, Pyrrhus, I didn't know you were that much of a player, but my goodness gracious, Cretaceous, what's going on with you, Pyrrhus?
Without any navy to oppose his former comrade, Pyrrhus sat back and allowed Demetrius to take both Corcyra and Leucas. This was just a prelude to his future plans. Being just as restless and ambitious as Pyrrhus, Demetrius now attacked Epirus' Aetolian allies in 289, neutralizing them and leaving Pantaucus to occupy them before marching into Epirus. He marched north through the mountain passes to invade Ambracia, while Pyrrhus, hearing of the invasion, quickly assembled a force to oppose Demetrius and marched south down the coastal road. However, as the two armies were now on different roads, they passed one another by. While the unopposed...
Okay, that's rather funny. You're going to war and it's just like, hey, that's the other enemy army on the other side. Yo, there they are. And probably the other side was like, yo, there they are. The first ever drive-by meme in antiquity. Pure gold.
Invader now plundered the Epirot countryside. Pyrrhus encountered the 10,000-strong Macedonian force of Pantaucus, which had been left to garrison Aetolia. The army of Epirus likely numbered around 20,000 soldiers and heavily outnumbered their enemy. It is probable that, due to the veteran nature of the soldiers, Pantaucus' reputation as Demetrius' most competent commander, and the mountainous terrain of Aetolia, the battle was evenly matched despite Pyrrhus' numerical advantage. The Macedonians held firm despite the heavy fighting. During this melee, the two commanders sought one another out, and Pantaucus challenged the Epirot king to individual combat. Pyrrhus, not being...
Imagine that, a king who fights his own battles.
...one to...
Wouldn't that be a sight to see? If you know the reference I just made, I love you.
...yield to anyone in daring and prowess, accepted this challenge. After first throwing their spears at one another, the two combatants duelled with swords. Pyrrhus was wounded at first, but then quickly gave Pantaucus 2 wounds in return, one on the thigh and then the deciding wound to the neck. Demetrius' general was then carried away by his bodyguards, and being inspired by their commander's victory, the Epirot phalanx cut their enemy to pieces, killed many in the pursuit, and captured 5,000 prisoners, whom Pyrrhus promptly released. This was Pyrrhus' first victory as a commander, and he had conducted himself in a brilliant manner, both in his generalship of the army and his personal courage in the duel. His army, jubilant with victory, now gave him the title Eagle, a moniker which would remain with Pyrrhus throughout his life and future conquest.
Eagle? I fly like an eagle.
The Epirot king, in an act of humility to his soldiers, stated, "Through you, I am an eagle, for how should I not be when I have your arms to sustain me?" In addition, the defeated
And how can I be a raft, were it not for you guys bleeding out for me in future battles to come? Was that too soon? Yes. Yes, it was, but worth it!
Macedonians now had a high opinion of Pyrrhus and his skill in arms, a fact that would play a part in the wars to come. Our series on Pyrrhus is just starting, and there's more to come, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the bell button. We would like to express our gratitude to our Patreon supporters and channel members who make the creation of our videos possible. Now you can also support us by buying our merchandise via the link in the description. This is the Kings and Generals channel, and we will catch you on the next one.
Alright, so what have we learned here? First of all, we learned that Pyrrhus is a little crafty bastard. I feel sorry for Antigonus dealing with him. It's like he probably had to be like, alright, yeah, kid, you're great. Hey, there's this peninsula called Italy. Why don't you check it out in the future? Wink. So there you go. So the point of playing these series is to remind all of you of Rome's true enemies. They used to underestimate Rome, and Pyrrhus was a jagoff of jagoffs. I'm not done yet insulting Pyrrhus. I'm not done yet insulting him. He thinks that the Greek phalanx can stand up against Rome? Well, Rome has a few words for him. Don't worry, folks. This war is only getting started. You know, and while this history is clearly showing a biased point of view, remember, true Romans, Rome always wins. Because someday soon, they're knocking on Greece's door and saying, hey, you're part of the Roman Empire now. Until then, take good care of yourselves and each other. Please support kings and generals, even though they might not be truly unbiased. No, they're fine. They're fine. Leave them alone. But check out Kings and Generals. Support the original content creators, you hip cool cats. Be true Romans. And very soon, I think our old school Roman friend will want to visit us once again. Because he might hear that Rome is in danger. And if you want to see him again, and if you want to see the campaign for Aurelian, we need to see your feedback. So type in the comment section below, and I better be seeing a lot of comments. I want to see the Aurelian campaign. The only way that's going to happen is if you type it in the comment section below. So until then, take good care of yourselves and each other. Drink true Roman wine, eat true Roman bread, and make love to your true Roman wife. Peace.